Hey everybody, I am Sam Haymart, and this is Growing Older Gay's Gay Kitchen Table Talk, episode 47 for the 22nd of February, 2026. Gay Kitchen Table Talk is where I sit down with you once a week and I tell you what's going on at my kitchen table as well as the kitchen table around my LGBTQ plus fishbowl that I love. And this episode today is a very important one because we've got some important things going on at our kitchen table. We have a missing person in Phoenix this week, Michael Bayne, and he's been gone for about a week, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. And we've also got the 1-year anniversary today of the disappearance of Marcus Freiberger, and ultimately they found him dead. There's renewed interest in that. At the 1-year anniversary mark, there's a new way that you can help us find out what happened to him, and we'll get more into that. Before we do all of that, we're going to talk about our daily inspiration, which is how we start every episode, and that is from our social media, which can be found on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X. Social media basically offers up snippets of what's going on with me, events that I go to, but most importantly, a daily inspiration that is uplifting, spiritual, sometimes fun. Our daily inspiration today simply reads this: watch out for yourself. Look, let's be honest. Those of us in the LGBTQ plus community have a target on our back, especially in the world we live in today. We are on the list of categorical groups that a hate crime can be applied to if something happens to us by the hands of somebody who's doing it out of hate. There are people that hate us just because of who we are. Most of us who are gay, lesbian, transgender, or somewhere else on the spectrum, we already know this. But it's very important for us to recognize this and take that into account when we're taking precautions in our life, whether it be out and about, living at home, whether it be who we invite to our home or who we go out and do things with. In our homes, we have to make sure that we have a safe space, that we have a way of monitoring what's going on. I have security cameras, and I live in a pretty nice neighborhood. But I still have cameras that monitor who comes and goes from my house. Yeah, we lose a little bit of privacy because of that, but if anyone ever came here to our home to harm us, they're going to be caught on camera at the very least. When we go out and we go places, we let people know where we're going. And when I say we, I talk about my husband and I. We let each other know when we're going places, where we're going. We share our location with each other. This really is something that I think everyone should do. If you are a person in our community, and especially if you go out clubbing, you go out hooking up, meeting new people, and you're an active person in your lifestyle, it's very important that you have a ride or die out there. It doesn't have to be a boyfriend, girlfriend. It doesn't have to be a partner. It can be anyone, a family member, or just a trusted friend who you can at the very least show your location with. And yeah, a lot of us in the community like to be shady. We like to go places and do things we don't want other people to necessarily know about. It really benefits us if we can trust somebody with that, so that if something happens to us, or we stop showing up, we stop answering phone calls or texts, that somebody has a way to go find us where we're at, or at least be able to start the search for where we were last seen. And that can be eventually handed off to the authorities if something bad does happen to us. And I know this all sounds grim, but this is very topical to what we're going to be talking about today. Trust your gut. If you are around people that don't feel right, or things are going on around you that don't feel right, you're at a place that doesn't feel right, we usually have that feeling. Most of us have a gut instinct that tells us when something is not right long before anything goes wrong. And my own experience is exactly that. Almost any time that I ever found myself in a dangerous situation where something bad happened or something bad almost happened, I had a sense about it ahead of time, or a sense about the people I was dealing with before I went there in the first place. So trust your gut. Try not to put yourself in the path of danger. Most of us know when we're putting ourselves in front of the bus. With that, we're going to lead straight into our most important topic of the day. A very handsome man is missing from our community here in Phoenix. Michael Bayne, a young man, he's 32 years old, 6 foot 4 inches tall. He weighs around 215 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. He was last seen on Monday, February 16th at around 9:40 a.m., leaving his apartment in Tempe, Arizona. He was wearing a blue baseball cap, light colored jacket, and jeans. Now, after it was determined that he was missing, his family was able to get to his apartment, and it was found that his wallet was left at home and there were no signs of foul play. But his 2017 Volkswagen Jetta, color white, is still missing. License plate KDA 39X. His cell phone was last pinged in Mesa, Arizona on Monday afternoon around 6:30 p.m. in the area of McKellips and Country Club Roads. The phone has since lost contact with the network. This is a person who I don't know personally, but I have friends who know him. He was actually last seen at a local bar on Sunday, just walking distance from where I sit right now, with a group of friends that I know. He's somebody who's known to the community, and he is missing. If you know anything, if you've seen anything, you can call the Tempe Police Department, 480-350-8311. And please do so as fast as you can. Time is of the essence in these cases. And now we're going to move on to another person, Marcus Freiberger. You may already know his name. You may have already heard. He disappeared this weekend a year ago, right on the weekend of February 21st and 22nd, 1 year ago. And his body was found a month later floating in a rock quarry in South Phoenix. Marcus was a handsome, strapping guy. He was a big, muscular person. He was just becoming a yoga instructor here in Phoenix. He had a lot of friends. He was very well loved by the community. He was very active on social media. Most everybody that lived here in Phoenix in our community had at least seen or met him once or twice, and I put myself in that category. And he had a lot of people that knew him, and there are a lot of people in this community who still miss him very much and who still really want to know what happened to him. So we're going to revisit this because there is renewed interest, being the 1 year anniversary. His family has some new ways that you can help contribute to finding out what happened to him. But let's go down the list of some new information that I have. I just literally got the police report from this morning and was able to go through it. And I think we're going to do a special episode a little bit later that goes more in depth to maybe jog somebody's memory. But some of these pieces of information that I have right here are actually new to me and are quite illuminating into what may have happened. The media stories that are most well known when he disappeared was that he had gone missing around the 21st to the 22nd, and he was last seen with his truck in downtown Phoenix at a parking garage. And he allegedly had a blind date set up with somebody who he had met on a dating app on his phone. Now, if you're in the gay community, you know what gay dating app means, and that's what it means here. It was a hookup app. The specific names of the people that he met and the apps that he was using were redacted from the police report, but he had been using those apps to meet someone, and the police did follow up with that person that he had met, and that didn't turn out to be a lead that they pursued further. But he disappeared on this weekend a year ago, and it took a couple of weeks before his family and friends actually filed a missing persons report. And when they finally did file the police report, the police didn't really seem to take this case too seriously, because the family and friends did inform the police that Marcus had been struggling with drug abuse. He was struggling with abuse of methamphetamine. Because of that, many of us believe that the police automatically put this case over here in a different column and didn't give it the weight that maybe a different type of person and a different lifestyle might have been given. But that said, weeks went by before the family actually filed a missing persons report, which was on or around the 13th of March, because they themselves had known Marcus to disappear for a couple of days here and there, and there had been things going on in his life that led them to believe that maybe he was just off on his own doing his thing. Once they did finally contact the police interviewed all of the people close to him, including his friends and family. It was only about a week later, on or around the 19th of March, that his body was found floating in a quarry down in South Phoenix along the Salt River. Having gotten the police report, I've gone through a lot of information that is new to me and answered some of my questions, which a lot of people had out there. Did they go through his truck? Did they go through his phone? Did they search his phone records? Did they investigate any of the DNA or fingerprints in his truck? And the answer is yes, they've done all of that. It's in the report. So I'm going to share with you some of what I gleaned from the police report. Now, none of this information is identifying information of anyone. It's not identifying locations that have specific addresses. Anything like that has been redacted from the police report anyway, that's available publicly. What I have here does answer some questions as to the last couple of days before he went missing. And I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that I'm going to be reading some facts here, and then I'm going to be interjecting some of what I think. And I'll try to identify those two different columns of information the best I can. The first thing I will tell you is, looking over the phone ping information, the last 2 or 3 days before he disappeared suggests that he was awake 24 hours a day. And this is to say that, given the background information that I know personally from a lot of his friends and people that we knew him here in town, that he was struggling with meth, and some of the reporting that's in the police report, is that the high likelihood is that he was high on meth and on a run in these last couple of days. Now, we don't know that for a fact, but there is a likelihood of it, and some of these pieces of data suggest that. And now let me read that. According to the police report, his phone GPS information put him in the area of South Phoenix along the Salt River corridor between 7th Street and 25th Avenues on the day of February 21st and into the early morning hours of the 22nd. He spent about 11 hours almost at a location near 25th Avenue and Broadway Road between around 5 p.m. on the 21st and 4:30 a.m. on the 22nd. Now, I'm going to stop the data here and interject some of my thoughts. He was at this place for 11 hours. It's highly likely somebody saw him there. Somebody was hanging out with him there. This might have been a location where he had some friends and he was hanging out. This might have been a location where he parked and maybe he was sleeping in his truck. That is also a possibility. 11 hours at one location, 25th Avenue and Broadway. Now, that location is an industrial area in South Phoenix, not a good neighborhood at all. There are neighbors, there are residential neighborhoods surrounding a number of junkyards and other industrial complexes. And it's right adjacent to the river. He spent a lot of time there in that last 24 hours. After that, for the remainder of the morning and the day of February 22nd, he moved around to various locations in the industrial and riverbed area south of I-10, between 7th Street and 15th Avenue, before his phone disconnected from the network around 2 p.m. near University and 7th Street, which is adjacent to the river. This tracks with where his truck was found. His truck was found locked up and secure on March 26th, about a little over a month later after he disappeared, at the parking lot of the Rio Salado Autobahn Center at Central Avenue and the Salt River. And according to the police report, some of the rangers had reported seeing the truck sitting there for 3 to 4 weeks, which means the likelihood that he parked his truck there, or someone did, and he was in that area moving around. He could have been on foot. He was known to be a hiker. He was known to be a runner in some cases. He could have parked his truck, and all of those movements that took place that morning and that day, he could have been on foot. He might have been driving around the area. We don't know. They were not able to secure any data from the OnStar system of his truck to match him, his phone, and the truck up to the same movements. Now we're going to move from the data back to Sam's thoughts and my experience. I know this area very well. It is a sketchy area, this whole entire area where his phone was pinging. I walked the trail along the riverbed. I walked to the quarry where his body was found, which is inside this envelope. And it's a scary place even during the day. It's very remote. There are a lot of unhoused people living along that riverbed, in the bushes, in the brush, under the bridges. And these aren't the type of unhoused people that we find in the city that are just really looking for food and talking to you. And in most cases, they're friendly. The people that are down here look at you like you're prey. What that area is also known for, if you get on some of these gay cruising apps, especially the ones that have maps and show you where people are, this is also known as a cruising area all hours of the night. Now, I'm not saying that that's what Marcus was doing down there, but that is the area where he spent the last 24 hours of his life. Moving on to when his truck was found, it was secured, it was locked, it was impounded, and the police did eventually swab the truck for DNA. They got samples. They found a lot of his belongings there. To the reporting I have, his wallet has still never been found, nor has his phone been found. On the 19th of March, his body was found floating in the quarry, which is just south of the riverbed. It's along the riverbed. You can see it from the trail. It has steep embankments that fall down to a very deep pit and then a pond at the bottom. And you can see the video on the screen if you're watching this on YouTube. This is a place that I felt on a summer day in broad daylight like I was sort of exposed, because the people that I saw hanging out down there scared me. I was really thinking, was this a good idea for me to come down here? But I wanted to make sure that I went down there and I got pictures of the area where he was last seen. And these were taken last summer. I have read the autopsy. He did have methamphetamine in his system. There was marijuana in his system. There were some cursory injuries to his body, but the autopsy was not able to find any of these things at a level that were a cause of death. And so his cause of death back then, when that autopsy was released, was undetermined. So the police, after his body was found, they went searching for his truck. That's when they found it a little while later on the 26th, even though it had been sitting in a parking lot close by for over a month. The police did eventually do a number of cursory interviews with people that were close to Marcus in his last days. They interviewed one of the people that he was communicating with on the apps. They interviewed other people that were believed to have talked to him or interacted with him in that last day or so. Given all of the information in the police report that I saw, which is a lot to go on, they have a lot of leads. There's a lot of information to look at, but they didn't take it very much further. And eventually they closed the case. They just closed it. It's not an open case. A lot of times we hear about these cold cases that we hear about on documentaries and on TV and on podcasts where they eventually find the murderer. They eventually find out what happened to somebody. Those are cases that have remained open. This case was closed. Phoenix police just said, okay, there's just not enough to go anywhere with this. They closed it. So here we are today. We're a year later. While all the information that's been reported talked about when he was last seen downtown and he was talking to people online, I would really look at these last 24 hours, where he was hanging out, and who was hanging out with him. Because I am coming from the recovery community, and I know hundreds of people who are either recovering or struggling with methamphetamine. I know what that life looks like. I know what those patterns look like. And so when I speak of this, I speak of it from knowledge and love, not judgment. This last 24 hours of all of these locations and this specific area has the appearance of he was hanging out with other people, or at the very least, he was somewhere down there moving around quite a bit. Somebody has to have seen him. Somebody has to have seen him. And the likelihood is he probably had somebody with him. If he was hanging out at a location, whether it be at someone's house or whether it be a commercial location, for 11 hours between the afternoon of February 21st and the morning of the 22nd, the likelihood that he was with somebody is very, very high. Who is that person? Are you that person? Do you know what he was doing and where he was on that last day? Is there something that you know that you can help? That you can help us find out what happened to Marcus? Did you see him anywhere along the river? Did you see his truck? Did you talk to him on the apps and think, gosh, this guy, no, not for me? But did you see him? Did you talk to him? These are things that are very important that might be able to help the private investigator that the family has now hired find out what happened to him. And that's the closing part of this. The family and the friends closest to him have hired the Secure Solutions Collective. There is an open case with them. They are investigating. There is a website that you can go to if you have any tips or information. And the website is securesolutionscollective.com/Marcus-Freiberger. Link is on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube. It's in the show notes if you're listening to us on a podcast. Very important, because this is a private investigation firm that has the motivation to go a little bit further than the police. The police just, my sense of it is the police just sort of put him in the column over here with all the other people that just, shouldn't have been doing drugs and shouldn't have been out there at that point in time. Bottom line is Marcus was important. No matter how much he might have been struggling with drugs, no matter how difficult of a life and a struggle he might have been dealing with in that last couple of days, he did not deserve to die. He didn't deserve to die, not by circumstance, not by someone's hand. And if somebody knows something, I highly recommend that you please go to this website. You can submit a tip. And the second thing I'm going to talk to you about is these things cost money. Hiring a PI costs money. The family and friends have also put together a GoFundMe to fund this investigation. The link for that, again, down in the show notes if you're listening to us on the podcast, and it is on the screen if you are watching us on YouTube. This is something, obviously, that's very near and dear to my heart because, as I said, I know hundreds of people who have recovered and who have lived through the addiction phase. And I've heard some terrible stories. I've seen some terrible stories. I've lost a lot of friends to the disease of drug addiction. And as I mentioned at the outset, I'm going to spend some more time with this police report and see if we can't put together a good timeline and a good look at this situation that might be able to jog some memories. And we'll go into this a little bit further here pretty soon. I had just gotten this police report this morning, and I could only go through the things that really jumped out at me as what I think is the important window in which to look. And to recap, that is that last 24 hours in the South Phoenix area. That's where I think the rubber hits the road on finding out exactly what happened to him and maybe who was involved. So my prayers are with the family. I have spoken with some of them, and I've spoken to a number of his friends over the last year, and I'm grateful for their help and their willingness to talk about Marcus. He was a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man. So that is our episode for today. As always, I want to hear your comments. Please drop your comments on YouTube or send me an email, sam@growingoldergay.com. Our website is growingoldergay.com. You can find us on social media, which of course is Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Our podcast, available almost anywhere that you can find a podcast right now, and more importantly on YouTube. I like YouTube better because I like to look at you and I like you to see me and see my facial expressions as well as the graphics we put together, but I try to make sure my voice works too if you're not getting the visual. So I very much appreciate all of you out there who watch and listen. If you are watching me on YouTube, you can see our latest episode right there. Better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the round logo just below that. If you're on a podcast, subscribe there too. Either way, stay tuned.